You're live.
Let's call the meeting to order. We'll note the presence of a quorum. I would invite you to please stand. We'll begin with the pledge, and the flag is in the corner. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to welcome guest staff visitors present with us here this afternoon at our committee of the whole meeting. This will pertain to the 2027 budget and general discussion. No decisions will be made today. With that, I'm going to turn it over to County Administrator Dave Minkey.
Thank you. And in case anyone did not pick up on it, we are live streaming the meeting and will be recorded. And I'm just going to turn it over to Auditor Kathleen to lead the discussion.
Thank you. Thank you. So yes, this discussion is regarding the 2027 budget process. Jim Bright and myself will talk a little bit about our capital improvement plan and where we are at now and what we're working on and hopefully to be in the future. So, okay, kind of high level. We're not going to get into the details necessarily of the budget, but just kind of talk about some of the items that may be coming at us for the 2027 budget and talk about the process. So our agenda today is the budget timeline and the budget process. Those two are kind of going to work together. I will also cover our non-county and our non-levy budgets that are kind of part of our budgeting process. And again, the capital improvement plan, and then we can have time for questions and discussion. Starting is the budget timeline. So when we start, which we've started already, we met April 27th and reviewed the timeline with the budget committee, including discussion around legislation, which is, state and federal, and how it will affect our Aitkin County's budget. Then May 12th, I reviewed the timeline with the Board of Commissioners at the board meeting. May 18th, April sent out budget materials to the department heads. So the budget materials will be out to the department heads so they can start preparing their budgets. That budget materials look at past, we did 2024 actual, 2025 actual, 2025 budget, 2025 actual, 2026 budget, 2026 year to date, and 2027 availability to fill in. So department heads are able to look back on past information to use towards their 2027 budget and look at what happened, but then plan for what's coming. June 29th is when all that budget information is due to my office. So my office enters all the budgets into our IFS system, which is the integrated financial system. It's our general ledger system that we use. We enter all the budgets except for the highway department, HHS, and the sheriff's department. They enter their own budgets into the system. Otherwise, my department's entering those budgets into IFS. So what happens after all of those department budgets are entered into IFS? Well, we start having discussions with department heads. In the past county administrator would meet with every department head. So I kind of carried that over last year and did that. I'm not sure if I will do that again this year or not. Some department heads don't really need, their budgets are pretty small, pretty contained, and there's not much wiggle room in there. Some department heads will want to meet because they may have new capital that they have to purchase or a new grant that they're dealing with. And we'll want to talk about what that looks like in the budget and is it represented appropriately. We'll talk about staffing plans. Bobby is currently putting together all the staffing information and she'll send that out to department heads. So department heads can review that and see if that fits with what they're planning for their department. I also get that information so that I can enter that into the budget for the payroll. Either department heads enter it or I enter it for them if there's no changes. And things we're looking at is retirements. We're looking at vacation payouts and some of those extra along with what payroll will look like for 2027. We'll look at capital expenditures. Are they planning to have big capital expenditures, buying new equipment, not buying equipment, what that looks like? And then we'll talk about their reserves. This is something that has been missed in the past. And this is an issue that we're discovering, and Jim and I have discovered when we're talking about capital improvement plan, especially for the general fund, is departments may be budgeting money for a future capital project, but it's not getting reserved. So it's just kind of flowing back into the general fund, overall fund balance versus, or cash balance versus being reserved and saving for that capital item. So we're hopefully going to have discussions on that and improve that process. Budget items to be considered this year for sure that we have automatically is 7% salary increase and a 10% health insurance increase. And I say 10%, that's because we won't know that insurance number until like October, maybe the first part of November. So we always do a 10% health insurance budget number just to accommodate. If it's lower, yay, good for us. We get a little bit of flexibility. If it's more, at least we've probably covered that increase the largest amount of that increase of what it means. I did ask some departments just ahead of this meeting to just kind of note some other things that we'll be looking at ahead of what the budget will be and before our discussions with department heads. And Cammie gave me some information. Her information is leaders still have not fully funded community corrections as a whole across the state as discussions during the 2023 legislative session, and yet are still expecting agencies to sunset supervision fees and possibly correctional fees. We will be reviewing our ANOCA secure detention contract next fall to possibly reduce from 1 bed to a half a bed, which potentially could reduce juvenile detention costs. So that's one area in community corrections that we'll be looking at beyond the salaries and health insurance increases that we'll have. Health HHS, of course, has a lot of movement. Carly sent me an email with noted in for HHS. Of course, they have salary concerns because they have a large budget and many employees on HHS. So that 7% and that 10% are going to be a big piece of their budget this year, but they also have changes going with they're doing an unfilled position in child support. They'll also be looking at doing maybe a shared MinChoices position in being ready for paid family medical leave, right? So they're just setting themselves up so they don't have a big open area and they can still meet their statutory requirements for those evaluations. Some other things just
for clarity on that shared MinChoices position, that's the one we just did with Crowing, right?
Correct.
So okay, so that will show in the upcoming budget.
And there is income coming in from that also. So that's kind of will be in their budget. They'll have an expenditure, but then they'll have some income offset also. That is an income generating position. And that's a lot in health and human services is that balance of, okay, we can cut this expenditure, but if we're cutting this expenditure, what revenue are we also cutting and what that will look like in the budget? So they have a lot of those pieces that they're looking at in their budget. Another big piece talking about is out of Mike's budget is pictometry. So in the past, the board has funded pictometry out of the recorder's tech fund, but now the tech fund has been used for other uses and there's not as much funding in there. So now we're looking at, is it 80,000, 82,000 a year, 82.7 a year for 3 years if the board wants to go forward. So that will be a discussion that we'll be carrying forward to the budget committee to decide how we want to move with that and what that looks like in our budget. Because then update would be starting 2027 again, because we took a break in 2026.
Correct.
So those are a couple items that are just a couple of the items that will be part of the budget discussions, but just to kind of bring your attention to those. So that's part of the department head discussions. After we have those discussions, we have all the budget information entered into IFS. Once all that information is entered, then I download it into an Excel form so we can get a summary picture of all the departments and all the funds and what that looks like and overall levy increase or decrease. No, it's always an increase, but so once that is downloaded into the summarized spreadsheet, then I will review that with the budget committee and go over the pieces of the budget and how it's affected. And we'll talk about the preliminary levy amount and options for adjustments. Is that preliminary levy increase good? Or is it coming in at 20% and we need to lower it? How far do we want to lower it? What actions do we want to take to lower it? Do we need to look at using some additional cash balance? Do we need to cut some expenditures? How are we going to handle? So those discussions occur at the budget committee. August 11th is the general fund, including the sheriff. That's the planned date for the budget presentations to the Board of Commissioners. August 25th will be HHS and Land and Long Lake. September 8th will be the Highway Department. August 11th is also planned to bring the appropriation requests and discuss those with the Board of Commissioners. Those are the requests from the Fair Board and from CARE and all those appropriations that are sent into us. And those letters have been issued also, right?
Just need your signature.
They will be issued shortly. And we already have gotten some requests in already. September 8th, the preliminary budget, the levy increase or decrease was discussed with the Board of Commissioners. So after the budget committee has reviewed what has come in, has talked about what we want that levy increase to look like, we will have a number that we'll present to the Board of Commissioners as a full board and have discussion on that to be ready to set that levy increase by September 22nd. It has to be set by September 30th. Our budget information meeting, which we call the Truth in Taxation, is set for December 15th at 6:05 p.m. December 15th, did I say that? So that is the end of our budget period. We will set our levy after that on December 22nd. And so our budget or our operating levy will be set on December 22nd by the Board of Commissioners. And by December 30th, I have to have our property tax levy report submitted to the Department of Revenue. So that's a report that goes on to the Department of Revenue that gives them our information for our county, our entire county, and they use that information as their statewide guidance and information for everyone. Are there any questions up till now? Something we don't always talk about in the budget and when we're setting our levy is the non-county budgets and the non-levy budgets. So we also set the budgets for the unorganized townships. That includes fire contracts, road and bridge, and cemetery. We have 3 cemeteries that are managed by organized townships. So those levies are set by us also, but they're not necessarily considered county levies. They're levies for the unorganized townships. The fire contracts take in all the fire contracts that come to us are figured in. I have a formula and a spreadsheet that I track those. I track the balances that we have in those unorganized townships and set them that way. Our road and bridge is actually condensed. All of those unorganized townships we have condensed into just like one area, expenditures instead of by each unorganized township separately. Non-levy budgets include what we call the trust budgets, which are managed by DJ. The majority of them are managed by DJ. They include forfeited tax sales fund. They include the CONCON. We also have the law library in there. We have the MCIT department in there. Those are part of our non-levy area in the trust. We have the environmental trust fund. That's pretty easy. We just account for the interest coming in and the interest going out because each year we transfer the interest earned from the environmental trust fund to Long Lake. Then we have the Long Lake Conservation Center, which is a non-levy budget. We have resource management, which is also managed by DJ and county surveyor. County surveyor is kind of an odd budget because you'll see it be negative all year long within the cash balance sheet. And then at the end of the year, we transfer in from resource management and Concon, correct? To pay for that department. The other non-levy budgets are, we have some township budget areas that we have in there, cities, ARDC, and ambulance. Capital improvement plan. So I've been working on the capital improvement plan. It's at beginning stages. If you remember a couple years ago, you would approve a capital improvement plan, but it was never quite fully put together. It had pieces of road and bridge in there. It had pieces of the land department in there. It had the general fund in there, but again, it was missing pieces and also reserving funds, and the tracking of those expenditures and stuff were just kind of missing. So I broke it apart. Also, DJ manages his own capital improvement plan for the land department. John manages his own capital improvement plan for the highway department. Carly manages the capital improvement plan for health and human services. So there's no point in trying to manage all of those when they're already being managed by individuals that know that information. So
Kathleen, of any major significance, what is left in terms of managing capital improvement? What areas?
What areas? So what we're looking at when we're talking about the capital improvement plan, can you bring that up for the? So what I have done is kind of broken out just the general fund. Most of that will be this campus, right? This campus and the sheriff's department are part of the general fund, I guess, and pull over there. So what we're looking at is building maintenance, like the roofs that we did, sidewalks, facility repair. Of course, we're looking at other purchases like motor pool cars. Those types of items are part of the capital improvement plan for the general fund. And that's what Jim Bright and I have been working on, is pulling that information in to figure out what is scheduled to be replaced. What do we need? How much money do we need to replace it or update it? When does it need to be replaced? What does that look like? Do we put money away yearly, incrementally? Then do we make sure that those funds are reserved? So then when it comes to time to be replaced, those funds are in reserves and ready to be used when that item is ready. Add on that, Jim?
Yeah, so when I started talking to Kathleen about the capital improvement plan, it happened to hit my department first, and then we started looking into it. But I've been putting away money for a new maintenance truck. Our maintenance truck is a 2007. It's time we need something different. I've been putting money away, and then I went to her and I said, do I have enough money to go out and purchase that? And she's like, well, you don't have any money reserved for that, because it just got rolled into the general fund or the building fund. It didn't get separated out each year that I've been saving for. So the money's there. It's just not earmarked for that specific thing. So that's what kind of started us digging into it a little bit deeper. And then it's just the whole thing of trying to figure out. I mean, if you look at, I can print off 20 sheets that tell you when stuff should be replaced. Carpeting should be replaced at, they say 13 to 15 years. Well, that's just an average. A lot of our carpet will go 20 years. But if you start looking at kind of timelines, you've got to kind of have some idea when that replacement is needed and what that dollar amount's going to be and what's inflation going to be in the next 3 years, 5 years, or 10 years as you're looking ahead. So I'm not happy with where the capital improvement plan is right now, because I don't think it's detailed enough to know so that we can keep things moving forward. Like motor pool vehicles are a piece of cake, because you kind of know that you're going to replace those every 3 years or 5 years. You kind of know what that's going to be. You start getting into building items and, they all have a life expectancy, but sometimes they don't make that life expectancy. Sometimes you can extend them well beyond it, but you kind of have a baseline that you're going to try and hit. So it's really kind of trying to get that budget, so that we're not hit with all of a sudden we've got a $500,000 fix. We could have been planning for that for 5 years or 8 years or whatever the case is what we're trying to hit.
I'll talk a little bit more about our cash balances and fund balance in a little bit, but how that rolls in. But the plan going forward is we're going to continue working on the capital improvement plan for the fund, general fund, again, mainly this campus, sheriff's department, motor pool campus, what that looks like. Highway department managed capital improvement plan. We'll pull in those pieces for the overall capital improvement plan for the county approval is what my idea is. So everybody who has knowledge and maintains their area can continue to have that knowledge and maintain the area that they work with. But it will help us plan, prioritize, and have the funding ready to go for the future.
The what's sitting up there right now, you're looking at the the rubber roofing on the jail, the camp room area, gymnasium, those this last summer. Life expectancy of a rubber roof is 17 to 19 years. So what I would like to get to is, even though it's 20 years out, just put a spot holder on there so you know this is coming up in roughly 20 years. We're going to have to look at it. Now, maybe that roof will go 25, but what is a rough idea of what that estimate's going to be to replace that 20 years from now with a 3% or 5% increase annually? Where's that sitting? Just so we kind of know that dollar amount so that this board or future boards can decide, okay, yep, 8 years from now, we're going to have to look at a roof. Should we start putting money away to build up for that? Or are we going to be sitting at a point where we want to just that year, we'll just budget $900,000 to replace these roofs and we'll just do it that way, or however it's going to work. But it's really getting that looking forward. And also, I think it's important to look a couple of years back on a capital improvement plan to see what we did accomplish, what has been done, where the money was spent moving forward as well.
The other piece of this is aligning that capital improvement plan with the budget. So now we're working on 2027 budget, right? So what is planned for 2027? Are those numbers in the budget? Are they in the appropriate line item in the budget, right? So if you're planning for a capital item in our general ledger system, it should be in an object code 6600, because if you have it in a 6200 per se, that's a service. Should that be in the capital improvement plan? Maybe, probably not. So do we have it in the right line item? Is it in the budget? If you have it on your capital improvement plan, you're planning for an expenditure, is it in your budget, or are we at least having it ready for carryover? And the general fund is different than per se land department or health and human services, because our funds are at the end of the year, they just roll back into the general fund. So they're not necessarily earmarked for any specific department anymore. Where health and human services, land department, they kind of carry their fund balances. So they don't necessarily reserve like we do. They're able to carry those funds forward for planned projects. That makes sense.
So continuing in that line of thought, though, if we're successful at building the capital improvement budget, if Jim budgets $10,000 in an early year for a future improvement, you would designate that, or you would indicate that as reserved or assigned, or whatever the term of art is.
Correct. So that's our plan is to make sure that we're aligning that. So then when we get into December or we are discussing reserves, those amounts are getting put into reserves and the board is approving those. And our reserve fund is our fund too. So that's where we're tracking all of those dollars that have been reserved or should be reserved will be reserved in the future. If you want to click on cash balance or go into the cash balance, and I click on 2025 reserve. So currently, this is our current reserves. These are the reserve funds that were either carried over or added to in 2025. These are the funds that were reserved out of the 2025 budget to be carried over into the 2026 year. So some items that we have are for court admin, treasurer, auditor, central services. You'll see I have $2 million reserved for facilities. That's the $2 million that's going to go towards health and human services. So it was pulled out of our general fund 1 and pulled into 2. So it's earmarked and set aside specifically for that reason. So that currently, so in the 2025 reserves were $4.5 million that we have held specifically for specific reasons.
And are these being carried over?
Some of them will be, some of them have been spent. So, you know, we had some areas that have already been spent out. Some will be carried over because they have not been spent in 2026, may not be spent in 2026. Of course, the HHS building project will probably be spent in 2026. So that will be, you know, zeroed out and used in 2026. Vehicle replacement, I think Jim's hoping to get his maintenance vehicle this year, so we can zero out that reserve for him. So some of these dollars will be carried over again, and probably some dollars will be added to that then, because when we get to the end of 2026, what items have been budgeted that have not been used, but are still planned to be used hopefully in 2027. We don't want to continuously carry over dollars. Hopefully we have plans for these dollars so we can carry them over, use them, and they're not just sitting there kind of taking up space is the hope.
Now that $2 million for the HHS, that's matching, right? With the state? When we get that $2 million from the state.
That's our portion. So as part of the bonding piece and the plan for the HHS building is the state gave us a $2 million bond. HHS out of Fund 5 has been reserving or carrying $2 million. So they're spending their $2 million. And then Fund 1 had planned to put in $2 million also. So this is the $2 million coming from Fund 1 because overall it's a $6 million project.
Okay.
Is there any other questions on the capital improvement plan? Well, that was the end of my presentation. So I guess some questions I have is, what does the board want to see in 2027? As we're going forward with the budget committee and we're having those discussions, what's the board as a whole, board members looking for the 2027 budget and we forward?
Commissioners?
Well, one of the questions I have is, how bad's the fuel affecting the highway department and the sheriff's department? The cost of fuel being as high as it is. You know, I mean, we've been pretty steady, but fuel prices went way up. That's gotta put a big impact on your guys' budget.
Yeah, it definitely does. You know, we, I think we look at fuel not on a budget basis all the time. You know, we've had a couple of years of low energy prices, so, you know, we've got some cushion there now that we're headed back up. But, you know, it's extended long periods of high fuel prices that are really gonna hurt us and have to, you know, gonna require us to raise our budget for that. We'll see what happens between now and September or December, but I mean, sitting there at that time wishing that we had $4.50 gallon gasoline that we had now.
Well,
Potentially big impact.
We're going to all electric cars. Never thought you'd hear that on my mouth, did you?
And the non-driving ones, the
Yeah, right.
non-driver ones,
Yeah, the robots.
yeah. Can't remember what they're called.
Think what we'll save in labor.
It isn't just a fuel line item. I said before, our entire budget, everything is. I mean, if the fuel line item goes up, contract goes, all contract maintenance, everything. Material cost. So it's really dependent on energy costs. Keep the budget low and bank for that $1.50 a gallon gas that we were promised.
Well, something that we've met on before exclusively is Long Lake. And there, actually, it reverts back to the capital improvement. Have they yet, or maybe it's premature, listed out the capital expenditure forecast?
You want to click on the Long Lake Capital Improvement Plan, please?
Or am I getting ahead of?
Nope, you're good. I think you're just trying to catch up on that because it's, so the Long Lake, I've been developing a list of what needs to go, doing it by building. I've got a few numbers, not a lot. I somehow either I or another discussion point I'm going to bring up here in a few minutes needs to be boots on the ground up there. Take some pictures, start getting some measurements, doing the whole thing, trying to get prices figured out on what each of these is going to cost. Because if you go down just a little bit, Chris, down to say the Markham House, you'll see where they've got siding, and then I've also got insulation in the walls. Well, when Commissioner Sample was up there, we were talking about that. You're not going to tear the siding off to do the insulation, to put the old siding back on. It's a project. So where are these going to get lumped? Window siding, insulation are going to kind of be a project. So what does that project cost versus what does a square foot cost to put on siding? So it's really going to be some work to kind of figure out what ties together. I've got some numbers on the heating system replacement. Those are just rough ideas. Those were first estimates of an option. It's going to be a bigger discussion of how this works, but I've kind of tried to break it down into building because I don't see us coming up with $500,000 or more to replace that heating system all at once. It's going to be, okay, which one do we need to worry about first? Is it the Markham House? Is it the North Star Lodge? Is it the dining hall? What's that one going to cost? Let's get that one done. 2 years from now, let's budget this next one, or a year from now. I just don't see it all happening at one shot. So that's why I kind of broke it down that way instead of putting down heating system in general. If you go down a little farther, go down, there'll be a red right down there. So this is an example, Energy Center. These are some items we can do to help improve the heating system we currently have, but does it make sense to put money into those improvements if we think there's going to be a some way to fund some of the replacements 2 years from now? Or is this a 5 to 10 year replacement? Well, then these improvements, they maybe make sense to save energy, to save costs over the next 5 years while we get ready for that replacement. So again, it's a bigger discussion, but it's something that I think we need to look at how it's going to work and where we're going to go with it. So
I understand that they put all the free dollars they have in the scholarships. But are they putting money aside? I'm talking about Long Lake. Are they putting money aside?
They're just trying to pay their bills.
yeah. And right now, our capital improvement plan, our maintenance plan at Long Lake is you fix what's breaking because that's all you're lucky to afford that. It's hard to look ahead and say, okay, we're gonna do this in 2027, when we don't know if there's gonna be $100 to do a $10,000 project. So far out do you look when it's that way? So the capital improvement plan at Long Lake, to me, is gonna look different than the capital improvement plan here at this campus, the sheriff's office motor pool, from the standpoint, more than likely, most of this money is gonna come from grants, be it bonds, be it something like that. So that brings me to kind of what Mark had started talking about. I have had, and Kathleen have had some discussions with Integrity Group, and I've talked to them a little bit about what does it look like to do a facilities assessment, and what do we get out of a facilities assessment? This campus, we had Widseth do one 4 years ago, and I've been working off of that. I've been using that as kind of a guideline, and it's been very helpful. But when I talked to Travis, he brought up one, I believe it was Mower County they did it for. He's gonna get me a sample so everybody can kind of look at it. But not only did it do the facilities assessment, which is walk around, they take pictures, put it all in a book, say, windows need to be replaced, siding needs to be replaced, all that stuff. They do that. The thing that they do that's above and beyond what a normal facilities assessment is, they put it into an Excel spreadsheet that Kathleen can then take and plug that into what our capital improvement plan looks like for here. So you've got the dollar amounts, and then we can budget that out. This is a year 2, year 4, year 6. What that does when you go out for state funding, grants, whatever the case is, they need a capital improvement plan like that before they'll even look at your, what's your long-term plan? When is this going to get established? So that's something that I think we need to work towards, is getting a more comprehensive capital improvement plan for Long Lake, because of the way they're going to have to get their funding.
Do they have in their bank account, do they have enough cash to, can they afford a study out of their funds?
Probably
I don't know what.
Probably in that 15 to 20,000 range total
Yeah.
by the time, because you'd bring in an architect, mechanical engineer, and then Integrity Group would take that information, put it together, gather numbers that they are seeing. They're doing projects. We're one of 7 or 8 projects they've got going. So they're re-siding things right now, so they know what siding costs. They're re-roofing things, so they know what roofing costs are currently. And then they do a very good job of forecasting, with a 2 or 3% increase in materials. This is what it's going to cost at 5 years when you're going to need to do this project. So you're trying to budget ahead, so you're asking for enough to do the projects. I don't know, Kathleen was talking, there are some fiscal recovery funds that are undesignated left, that if that was something we'd be interested in using for it. Otherwise, we'd have to look for some other funding sources. I don't know if a study like that would even be grant eligible, if there's something out there. That would take a little time to look into. So, but that's something that, like I said, capital improvement plan on this facility, because it's a budgeted thing, is different than what Long Lake is.
If I might,
Yes, Commissioner?
I think I just need some clarification from my edification. The county owns Long Lake.
Correct.
The board is the one that's being tasked to raise funds to run Long Lake. Is that not correct? The board that operates that, what do we call that board that's out there?
Well, they have a foundation.
The foundation.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
foundation is tasked to raise funding for this.
That is part of, they are a 501c3, just like any other 501c3 in the world. The only thing that separates them from other 501c3s is that they have specifically in their in their charter, their mission is to help raise money for Long Lake.
Okay.
But they have no connection to Long Lake or to the county in any other sense, because Long Lake would certainly take money from any 501c3.
Right, I understand. But the point I'm getting at, it's the county's responsibility to maintain these facilities.
Correct.
Then we should build our own capital improvement plan for that. Right?
Mhm.
Is that not a correct statement? If it's our facilities, we need to build this capital plan ourselves. This Board of Commissioners with you and sitting down and figuring out how are we gonna do this? Because the last 4 years, it's been, well, how much money have they raised? How much money is the county gonna have to put towards it? I think that's been from me looking at it, that's the wrong focus on this. It's owned by the county. We're responsible for it. We need to figure it out.
And procedurally, would that be incorporated within your budget? Or a subdivision of the land department budget?
I would
Long
almost,
Lake currently is it not?
yeah, yep. Dave and I set Long Lake's budget. And there has been, outside of fiscal recovery funds 2 years ago, it's been prior to 2019 since there was any levy dollars that went to Long Lake. So its income has been specifically from school groups and sales in the gift shop and that type of stuff.
So they've been self-supporting, notwithstanding capital improvement
Right.
funding.
Well, they lost money last year, but yeah. Yeah, they have not received any county levy dollars since prior to 2019.
Okay, maybe I'm missing something here. We've not given them any money, but how much money have we spent on Long Lake with the upkeep of their buildings, fuel?
That's paid out of the Long Lake Fund.
Yeah, it's paid out of Long Lake's fund.
So none of those expenditures are coming from what we call the general fund or levy fund. They're coming from the Long Lake Fund.
Which money is generated from where?
The
From
foundation,
their scholarship.
No, not the
Foundation.
foundation. So the foundation raises money. They're able to support scholarships and services, but they don't necessarily support
Right.
Long Lake. They don't.
At the end of the day, Long Lake's budget is just an income.
School.
Long Lake's entire budget, at the end of the day, is income and expenses. They're itemized out where they're coming from and where they're going. But at the end of the day, it's just a bottom line, whether we're black or red at the bottom of it. And so whether it's scholarships that come in or whatnot, but the dollars that come in from the foundation have been ranging from $20,000 to $30,000 a year. Long Lake's budget is $1 million. So the contribution from the foundation into that grand scheme of things is relatively small. The rest of it, $700,000-800,000 is coming from school groups.
Right.
That pay to come to Long Lake. And then Long Lake, as far as their housekeeping, their cleaning supplies are all paid out of their account that is funded via the school groups.
And one of the struggles is there are grants out there. If you want to build a butterfly house, you want to build a new building, there can be some grants. Nobody's too excited to give you money to replace windows, replace your upkeep. The grants are very, very thin. If you want to do something new, that's how the dining hall and North Star Lodge were built. That was it bonding dollars or whatever in the late 90s.
Yeah.
They gave them all the money. They gave all 5 centers in the state this money to build the dorms and the dining hall, but there's no money attached to it for upkeep. Well, that's been 28 years ago since that was done. And there's been very few improvements to those buildings since then. So they're getting they need it. They need some help.
So if I'm understanding this, you give nothing out of your budget. No con money, no nothing along Lake.
Nope,
No forestry sales, no nothing.
not a dime,
All school generated.
correct.
Financially self-sustaining.
Financially self-sustaining. No levy dollars, no general fund dollars, no con.
With the exception of building upkeep, which comes to the county.
Nope.
That's what I just asked.
I think that's the futuristic question.
Right.
Are they gonna set money aside
Is,
like a business?
and that is the ideal situation, was that if Long Lake could make $50,000 a year and put it aside for capital improvement projects, that would be great. However, they are just trying to balance their budget at the end of the year. They don't have money to put aside for a new roof or for new siding in 3 years. They're not in that position right now.
How many acres are out there?
760.
So if we put 160 acres up for sale and we put that strictly into Long Lake,
Well, we're still not addressing my question that I asked. It's not Long Lake's, the school's responsibility to maintain the facilities.
no,
It's not their responsibility. And you're telling me that we're expecting them to use the funding that they're generating to run the school to make improvements on the school. That doesn't seem fair at me looking at it from the outside going, okay, you're raising money to run the school, getting the donations from other schools to have the school. But we own the property. We need to maintain the facilities. You know, and I know nobody wants to raise taxes and nobody wants to make a bigger budget. But if we don't do this, we're going to be doing the same thing that the Aitkin schools as we're looking at. That the preventive maintenance hasn't been done and it's all going to come to a peak. How are we going to pay for it?
Right.
I mean,
Well, and the first step to that is defining the CIP so that there's a sense of what are the costs and then what are potential funding sources. And then I just have to ask a cash flow question because the LLCC is at a significant negative fund balance as of the end of 2025. Where does the cash come from to pay the bills if they're at a negative balance?
The county,
So I mean,
Fund
in essence, is that a de facto loan
you gotta put
from-
money aside, just like you do for yours.
some other county fund that's cash flowing them?
Just a point of clarification, Kathleen. In the past, I'm speaking of our audit. And this question has comes up many, many years, year after year. Something to do with the transfer of funds from the county coffers into the Long Lake. Can you expand on that a little bit?
sure. So, and this is before my time, because I just have past knowledge of it, but I don't even know when the county did like technical loans to Long Lake. And the county got in trouble because we couldn't loan to Long Lake. It is an enterprise fund. So per audit, we can transfer funds to Long Lake. Now, what DJ has stated, we haven't been transferring from the general fund necessarily, but we have been transferring from
There's an,
parks and from the environmental trust fund
yep,
to help balance out Long Lake. So, but for like, I don't even remember when, but the county was loaning money to Long Lake to say, okay, we'll loan you this money. You can pay us back when you get flush again. And the audit's like, no, you can't do that. You're either giving them money, you're transferring the money, or there's other pieces. So it changed from loaning per se to transferring then. So what we did at the end of years is transfer funds from.
right. And that was prior to 2019. Somewhere in along those lines.
Well, we transferred from the Parks Fund up until 2020.
Right, yes. Yep, those funds have always been transferred, the environmental trust. and the parks. Yep,
Mhm.
yep. I'm thinking of general levy dollars.
Yeah,
Or
the levy,
general fund dollars
Yeah.
transferred to Long Lake has not happened in,
Right.
yeah, 7 years.
But we're soon to reach that point of equilibrium.
Correct. Yep.
The crossroads where
And that's been the question that, with Long Lake is that, you know, our general funds or our levy dollars, should be used to, for capital improvement projects. Is this a direction that the county wants to go with it? And I guess that's a question, for the board, but it hasn't been something that has been done, at least in recent years.
I think, correct me, commissioners, the question is, or going to be, is Long Lake going to be self-sustaining, including capital improvements? I don't think that's a realistic
No.
goal. Thus lies the question, to maintain Long Lake, to what extent is the county out of their general coffers, through levy dollars, I'll call it subsidize Long Lake? I think that's going to be the ultimate question at some juncture in time. Lori,
Yep.
Brett,
Yeah,
and I don't know that we need to dwell on that right here and now, but I think this is a good discussion. I think we're laying a good groundwork for future discussions and subsequently future decisions that have to be made. David?
Yeah, I 100% agree. I have a question for Jim, if I may.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've been staring at this spreadsheet that has 2024. If you go out, is there a 2027 with any amounts in it? Or is that?
No, again, I haven't set out. I thought it was, why do I set out something that we're gonna do in 27, 28, 29 when, we're hoping to have enough dollars just to fix the repairs things that break this year. I mean, that's kind of where Long Lake is at. DJ, do you happen to know, do you remember last year what we spent on just maintenance repairs on heating system, freezers, coolers? That,
It was, out or unbudgeted was around 40,000.
so
And I,
these are items that they're at a point they should have been replaced, but
you just keep putting a plug in.
you just put a plug in it because that's what we.
Band-Aids,
Yep, you're just band-aiding it right now to get.
which is understandable under the financial circumstances.
and we budget dollars for general maintenance, things that we know we need to do, fire alarm inspection, stuff like that, kitchen, vents and hoods and stuff. And then we'll build in, usually 20 to 30,000 in unexpected repairs. And then we always have then more unexpected repairs than what we have budgeted for.
To bring things back into a more current perspective, where are we at in terms of the 2027 budget, in terms of subsidizing to one degree or another the Long Lake operation?
We haven't looked at it yet.
I don't know if you want me to share this or not, but
Well, it's,
so the latest cash balance and what David had asked just a little bit ago regarding Long Lake. So if you look at our cash balance sheet, and at the end of April, the balance in the Long Lake Fund was at a negative $402,000. So we obviously have, the year to go and more income to come in and action to take, but that's where Long Lake is coming in. So as we go through the budget process and we look at where Long Lake is and what the projection is for 2027 going forward, that will be the discussion that probably David, DJ, and I will have regarding Long Lake and what that looks like.
yeah. And their two busiest months for school groups is October and May. And they just had a 180 student school that just left last week. So, so until invoices go out and money comes in, but yeah, the end of the year was, 307, and then they carried over 30,000 from the previous year.
So the end of the year cash balance, December 2025 was 276.
275,
And
270.
how much of that was that money we got from that inheritance?
From the what?
Oh, the trust donation.
Trust donation.
So of the trust
Donald
donation that we go and we still carry interest on that, Long Lake Fund is earning the interest on that donation. So we kind of carry that in a special amount. That's at $406,083 in December.
Right.
Is that money,
It's spent, it's just there on paper. I mean, that money is figured into their,
So if you look at their overall balance and you take that out, we also carry forward like capital improvement money, rent. So anybody that is renting out at Long Lake, that rent money goes into a special capital improvement area that we carry forward for Long Lake. That balance is at 80,000. And then we have the trust donation. But if you take those out and you just look at the absolute like balance of cash for Long Lake, it's a negative 893,000.
and that's what prompted the red flags when I was going through the initial documents. That's not a small number.
So
Let's get the appraised value of this whole property, buildings, everything, what would that be? What are we talking, a couple of million? If that was the tax, someone else was paying tax on it, what would it be, what would it bring in? What would it be like our appraised?
Yeah.
Putting into
I don't know if I could even ballpark it.
that's a question for Mike, I don't know.
That land alone would be worth more than that. But then with the buildings, being as large as they are, we can go into your fire pool. You know, it might take a while to sell. So, yeah, I couldn't tell you right now.
Can we even sell it?
Yes,
Yeah.
If it were sold, 100% of the proceeds would not necessarily be county proceeds.
No.
Right, because if it was a tax forfeit land,
Kiwanis or-
it would be divided out to the school, the town, and the county. And if it were privately donated land, there might be some restriction issues that would have to
Right.
work through. So it's not,
Tax base coming to the county though?
and there was a question regarding the
Kiwanis.
original Kiwanis agreement, where the original parcels of land would revert back to the Kiwanis.
And that's 200 acres, right?
Somewhere, yeah. But, and I think the county attorney brought this out, that'd be a hard one to enforce, given the length of time. So who knows? There's nebulosities involved with the answer to that question.
so the short answer is, if all of the stars align, the school operating out there can break even on an annual basis. If schools cancel, that typically reduces the revenue without a corresponding reduction in the overhead, right? Because it's kind of like a school district, right? If you have 21 kids or 24 kids in the classroom, your overhead doesn't change, but your reimbursement on a per pupil basis change, right? So, so the idea is to keep the school as busy, keep it as busy as it can, and it will break even. And then give some thought to how do we incorporate this capital improvement piece into it in a way that is affordable and leverages as much outside money as we can, whether that's foundation ramping up its participation, whether that's grants, whether that's state bonding, or other sources.
And that's what I'm getting at. If they have a full year, all they're paying is their bills, their staff, their heat, their lights. There's nothing set aside for capital.
No, there's no,
They're-
there's not.
They're treading water. Not making any financial progress, but
With a little glimmer that I heard Kathy say, there is like $80,000 in that account from the rentals.
Yes,
So that puts us $700,000 in the hole. That ain't very much, light at the end of the.
Subtracted off of the general operations though. I mean, it's sitting there.
it's sitting there, but
It's the same as the Donald H. Nelson Trust. So,
spending it will just put us further in the hole.
right, but it essentially is spent.
and what was it spent on?
When you're balancing the overall budget, and maybe I'm not saying that quite right as far as it being spent, but I look at the bottom number, that 402, 402,000, that would be cash balance.
That's cash balance.
Right, yeah, yep. So the DH Trust donation and the capital improvement, it has a positive 411 and a positive 80. But there's general operations, that's a minus 893. So when you spend those items off of there, it leaves you with that 402.
$500,000.
So, yeah,
Was that money spent on capital or just ordinary
it was
operations?
Because operations are over expend.
general operations.
Okay,
Yep.
Now, capital improvement carryover was started long before my time.
Yeah, yep.
And so we've always accounted for it separate, but overall, the cash balance for Long Lake is the cash balance for Fund 19. So in reality, you're looking at that cash balance for Fund 19. We just account for different things to give hope that if operations were in positive, we would have 80,000 to use towards capital, if that makes sense.
So why is there such a difference on the cash balance that gets reported monthly in the board packet and the 893,000?
Because I just take the bottom number. Because it's the cash balance is just for we break it out just, again, because the trust is earning interest, so we kind of have that broken out because that is in a separate account. We are earning interest on it. That interest is still going to Long Lake, and that interest is earned on that 411,000 each month. So we're tracking that. The 80,000 was always broken out to kind of track that, oh yeah, if operations were positive, Long Lake would have $80,000 to use towards capital improvement because the decision was made, whoever knows when, that rent and stuff that is earned would be bookmarked for capital improvement needs. But again, operations has to be in a positive in order for those capital improvement dollars to be effective.
Well, it's always after I ask the question, I realize how silly it is, but that means it's a good question. So thank you.
You're welcome.
something I'm not understanding. The trust money, and then how much did that amount to?
The total of it was 300 something.
It was upwards of 4, wasn't it?
And then we had
I
another,
have like, at the end of 2023, we had a balance of 334,000.
Wasn't there an extra little shot?
there was an extra the following year when the entire estate was settled.
So then at the end of 2024, it was up to 389.
Yeah. Now, here's my question. That money is spent. If that money is spent, how can we be drawing interest on it?
Because we actually have that, because it's actually sitting in a separate checking account.
It's not spent.
It's not spent.
There's other money that's spent. This is like calculating your net worth and counting your retirement account.
It's the nomenclature that's,
Yeah. So there,
when I hear the word spent, bye-bye birdie.
So in our treasure, if you looked at Lori's cash balance sheet, which I don't think she shares with you guys, and that's fine, but I get it because I have to balance out at the end of the month with her, with our activities. But if you look at where the county money is, we account for cash and investments. Well, our investments are like 30 different accounts because she has our money invested, and some accounts, i.e. this Donald Trust, was put in a separate account to earn interest.
So that money was not spent. We're not buying bubble gum or anything. It was actually transferred into an interest-bearing.
Interest-bearing
So
account,
that money is still there.
but it's still part of the overall county cash balance. So again, operations in a Long Lake are negative, so
But within that framework, is it not designated to Long Lake?
yes.
Okay,
So if you take that trust donation out, we're $893 million or
$830.
$809.
Yeah,
But when you put that trust money in that we're drawing interest, we're down to 402
Yes.
with the rental.
I think that's,
You could say you wanna spend that trust money. Say you wanna spend that trust money and you're going to
Cap-
update the Markham House, right? You could take that account and spend that money, but then Long Lake's gonna be in the hole
whatever. money you take-
813.
Yeah, whatever money you take out of there.
Together.
well, again, we're going to delve into this a lot deeper in the future. But, for now, how do we get through 2027 and what's going to be required? Kathleen, you indicated, again,
No pressure on DJ or anything.
that's yet to be determined before
Yes.
the final levy.
And we'll be working on that through 2026.
Yeah.
Making a plan.
Don't everybody talk it.
Well, I want to find the glimmer of hope in this conversation. So I went to the 2026 Fund 19 Long Lake budget, operating budget, and we budgeted for a positive of $11,000. So at this point in the year, do we think we're going to come anywhere close to making budget?
It would, I do quarterly reviews, so January, February, March. And, everything that they had for their expenditures and stuff, other than January, we're hit with huge garn repair bills. But it is looking okay. The question will be, or it'll be easier to tell once the school year is out and I can touch base with Dave and find out what he has for outstanding invoices.
Yeah, so at the end of the first quarter, we were 26% spent, which is
Right.
assuming some extra
Yep.
expense for the garlands or whatever. So that's not terribly out of whack. And so as long as
Right.
the revenue holds and there aren't more, significant unforeseen expenditures, maybe on the operating budget, we have to do okay, right? If we do okay on the operating budget, then everything else becomes possible.
Nice positivity.
Good job.
Oh, I probably laughed too hard on that. Sorry, Administrator.
Yeah, cash flow. It still ends the questions. How are we going to deal with the capital improvements?
Just, do you want to go on that board tab? This is not Long Lake specific, but as we're talking about it, this is what you guys get each month in the board packet. If you want to roll down and then go over to the right. Then down. So part of, and down a little bit further so we can see that fund balance. So part of our, what I have on there, and you'll see it's fund balance as of December 2024, because that's when we kind of, after the audit, then we review what we actually have in spendable fund balances. And we look at general fund, bridge, and health and human services. So of course, we've only had our 2024 audit completed. So that's why these numbers are here. But we need to keep a 40% and 50%. We kind of look, our low is 40%. I think we kind of like to have 50%, but what are those dollar amounts and where are we sitting? So in general fund, if we wanted to make sure that we have enough money in our general fund to maintain 50% of operations, we'd need 9.7 million. And at the end of 2024, we were at 10.8 million. Road bridge is at 2.9, and then health and human services at 4.4. So each budget year, we look at that and kind of decide if there's some room for us to use, and we call it fund balance, but in reality, it's cash balance. Where it is when we're budgeting and how much of that cash balance or unassigned cash balance should we consider using as part of our budget process. And most of the time we're looking at those one-time expenditures. We don't want to have it part of our operations. That number is included for your guys' information as we go throughout the year. So as you look at the cash balance that you have, that just for again, information. Last year, we do have general fund dollars budgeted for out of cash balance for 2026 budget. Health and human services also will know more how 2026 plays out when we get there, but that's where we're sitting right now. And I just want to bring that forward as part of this discussion, because as we talk about Long Lake and our capital improvement plan with Long Lake, that may play a plan into it. You know, the funding source of that may be general fund.
And my thing is, I go back to what's the tax value if the taxpayers are paying for it along Lake. We're past that, but
Right.
How much money would the county be gaining?
Just to ask a question to follow up that. So on the general fund, that 10.8 million is the unassigned. There's also an assigned portion, and so the total fund balance was 17.6 million. If you scroll up on it.
Yes.
That's on that same chart.
Yes.
At the top in the purple line.
Reserved versus unreserved.
Yeah, right.
Or just-
So there's I don't know, so there's a lot of funds that are existing that are reserve funds. That
Oh,
should
yeah.
make us feel good.
Right.
Capital improvement wise, you bet. It's just good business.
Thank you.
And we should be generating based on, I think we're getting about 4.9% return on the investments.
That's not my world. I can't answer that.
Well,
Sorry.
just looking at Lori's last report, and it's divided into multiplicity of investments. But there were some in there for, I think the going rate right now is probably about 4.8, 4.9 on a secure bond market, treasury note investment, very secure. But and I just noticed this last night, the 30-year interest rate is over 5%. I'm not going to get into macroeconomics here, but it's a forecast in terms of the return on your investment interest income. Kathleen, you know all this stuff.
You know, the other side of that coin is that mortgage rates are up.
Yeah.
0.5%.
It's almost 6.5 now.
Well, they're above. For anyone who's looking for a house.
Yeah. Well,
That's why the
well, according
rent is
to Chad
increase.
Schwendeman, it just went up to 6.6, but
What's your interest on, no. At
You
Long
ever
Lake.
looked at the Tamarack project and see what that would do with financial?
So Tamarack is going to bring it, correct me, Mike, but Tamarack would bring in net tax capacity and not necessarily like a direct payment to the county. It'd be part of their taxes, a tax assessment.
I haven't, I mean, it's been a long time since I looked at that specific piece, but I was thinking if there was a percentage that we would get, like, proceeds, net proceeds. for it.
Oh, you know what? Pilt could come into that.
Yeah, and there's royalties.
Royalties could
Yeah,
come
the
into
3
that.
nights, 4 nights and 5 nights stuff as well. That could play into that, but
We don't have any of that information yet as far as what that value looks like.
They just found some 20%.
I mean, we are already getting some benefit on that because they're already renting that, leasing that property with DNR. So we're getting proceeds from that
Is
now.
that Pilt money?
Mhm.
yeah, it's a mineral payment that's
Mineral
factored,
lease.
yeah, factored into the PILT.
But it's when they're fully operational and stuff. I'm not quite
It's just
sure.
coming closer and closer, and it's like that reply comment thing is gonna go by pretty quick, and the state could sign that permit, you never know.
Right.
Feels like positivity there.
Sort of commensurate with this discussion, Enbridge. What are we getting as a result of Enbridge, and where is that going?
What do we?
So Enbridge, we're getting, and that's where I was talking about net tax capacity, because that was the talk forever. Is when Enbridge comes in, we're gonna get all this money. Well, we didn't get straight dollars from Enbridge. Our net tax capacity increased because of Enbridge. So the county overall net tax capacity increased, but that lowered then our tax rate. So if you look at our tax rate from before Enbridge, we were in the 40s. I don't remember exactly what, but we were in the 40s, like middle 40s somewhere, and Enbridge came in. Now, we didn't necessarily increase our levy amount. You know, if we wanted to keep that tax rate at 46, we could have increased our levy amount a large amount and kept our tax rate at that same amount, but we lowered it. So now our tax rate is lower because our net tax capacity has increased throughout the county. So our tax rate is now 31%, 30%.
The bottom line, what are we generating as a result of the Enbridge pipeline?
So there, in order to get money out of Enbridge through taxes, you have to raise the levy, which then raises the tax capacity rate. So the impact that they had is like building a new house. If you leave the levy the same and you add $200,000 of tax capacity, everybody else pays less in tax, but the county doesn't collect more in the collection unless you raise the levy. So the only way to capture that increased growth or increased tax capacity is to raise the levy, which you will have the opportunity to do in a couple of months if you want.
But we do get some taxes from Enbridge, right?
Oh, yeah, Enbridge
What do we
pays
get?
their
I think that's what. Yeah, more.
Enbridge
Yeah.
pays their taxes. But the county didn't get, I mean, they maybe pay a larger portion in some areas, but we still are levying for this, you know, we still set that levy dollar amount and Enbridge pays that portion of it.
Somewhere along the line, we were led to believe, this was probably before you guys were,
Yep.
that we were gonna get a financial residual for every gallon of, we were
That's what
sort
we're
of
saying.
led to believe that. Maybe that was not the intent, but
Their value came on. So their value of the pipeline came in, which increased the overall county's net tax capacity. But we still set our levy dollar amount. I don't remember what it was, $18 million. What happened then is it just shifted who paid that $18 million. Enbridge paid a larger portion of that $18 million than they had in the past. What else happened though, unfortunately, was home values happened to increase at the same time. So our levy rate went down, but home values went up at the same time. So taxpayers didn't necessarily not all taxpayers saw a benefit from that.
So to answer the question, in 2025, Enbridge paid over $4 million in property tax to Aitkin County. They're the largest taxpayer in the county by far.
And a rhetorical question. What was that property generating prior to Enbridge?
I would say 0 because it's an easement and it's
Okay,
valuing the.
that answers my question.
And that figure I gave is just the total they pay. I don't know. And I got that from you for the TNT meeting.
Yeah,
And so I have no idea what all goes into it other than,
yeah.
I don't know, that's a good question.
I was just gonna mention that, when I look at the benefits Aitkin County, of having Enbridge is that the average taxpayer, average homeowner is paying less in property taxes now than they would otherwise
Right.
be paying.
It's an equalizer.
to get a sense for that magnitude, the next largest taxpayer is Burlington Northern.
Yeah,
At $309,000. So 4 million.
it's a little gap in there. And then we've got the gas companies and
Mille Lacs Energy is 156, Great River Energy 139, Mille Lacs Band of Ojibwe 76, Kennecott Exploration
Kennecott, that's Alan.
76, and then Gabanishwigedam 57.
Yeah.
Enbridge Limited Partnership. They've got 3 of the top 10 at 65, and then American Peak Technology at 75.
gives us a little bigger picture of things. Commissioners, audience members, staff, friends, countrymen.
I think we're gonna, a lot, as we go into this budget talks, is gonna depend on what came out of the legislature
Sure.
and what they funded and didn't fund is gonna play a big part as we do our budgets.
So I am not aware of any significant increase in funding in any of our general revenues.
Pardon?
There was some funding for the act, MAFPA, which I think is a minimum of $100,000 per county, which may be the largest source of new revenue that came out of the legislature that I'm aware of. I'm looking around the room because there's.
And modernization.
And yeah,
But is that money to us or that's money to the state?
split up.
To the state.
Yeah.
Yep, not to us.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah,
Did also it include a reduction or a hold on the cost shifts? I haven't looked into it. Like they were saying, are you still
There was-
required to do
There was
6 months inspections, recertifications that was gonna cost us? You know what I'm
Yes,
talking
that's
about?
all still, yep.
That's all stalled, right? It's on hold
Nope.
or is it coming through? It is moving forward.
Yep.
So the costs are gonna be there. So it did.
And then like for SNAP, they put like almost $11 million in for that administrative cost. but
Right.
that's To the state. So
So it's not,
across 87 counties, how much are we gonna get? The error rate one is still in, so that's still gonna be,
so that there is money to help pay the error rate cost. There is no money to pay the increased administrative
Right.
cost.
other way around,
Or
other way around.
to,
The error rate is gonna be the counties to pay. There is money towards the administrative costs. The state
Okay.
is putting, there is money for the administrative. The governor's proposal said opposite,
okay,
yeah.
okay.
The
That's
Senate-
where I was getting confused on it too.
I got confused.
All right.
Was opposite, but the opposite happened.
Did you get clarification after your question yesterday with AMC regarding this 25 or,
The settlement,
the
Dollars.
holdback?
not really, and I looked through there and it sounded like everything was canceled then, and that maybe going forward, there isn't the 75% that needs to go to MMB. It sounded like it. I haven't had a chance to really dig into it, but I did get a link to that, so,
That could be a positive.
That would be a definite.
yeah. But what wasn't a positive is that they had, the settlement fund generated $40 million more than it needed. And then that got allocated into economic development projects.
What?
So,
I did not see that.
Yeah, it's, you can't win.
yeah, so,
So there's $10.7 million in one-time funding to offset the SNAP administrative requirements
Right.
statewide.
Yeah, so you
One time. fund.
remember that was, 25% was.
That's all, right. That's out of these counties, so it's minimal.
Very minimal.
And there was property tax relief for, I think the income limit was like $143,000. I don't have any idea how that translates to an average homeowner. Like, it's because I'm a renter.
Not much.
But I think that's gonna be less helpful to us because generally our properties pay less total property tax than most other places.
Yeah, don't you see a lot of the refund requests or the refund information come through? Do we get many?
Just on kind of a statewide level, sometimes you get information from the Department of Revenue, what percentage of people qualify that are actually filed or qualified. There's a significant percentage that don't file that would qualify.
Is this information out to our public to file, that they're eligible, that they know that they can file? Or is this something that they're responsible to?
Yeah, it's in their, it falls in their court and it's been, they're responsible, but, and it's been brought up to the state to, well, why don't you make this automatic? Cause you have all the information to do it that way.
Right, well, that's why I'm asking, so we,
That's crazy.
The Aitkin School District tried to get that information out during their seemingly numerous bond referendums. But I don't know if people, no matter how you look at it, it's confusing.
right,
And
exactly.
it's more work and then the refund is done off cycle.
Right.
Right? It's not when you file your taxes, it's like during the summer.
Same with the tax court. Same issue. You can file in 25 to appeal, but you don't get a court date till 27.
Right. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it makes no sense. You're still paying your taxes, unless you want to pay taxes. You know what I mean? So the whole system.
Stop
is
paying
not-
everything.
It needs work.
It's a seed from Minnesota.
Fix it, Brett.
Let's move to Texas. Yeah,
Kathleen, just in rough numbers, in anticipation of the levy, forthcoming levy, we're looking at a 7% increase in labor costs. What roughly would that come to?
bring her,
Off the top of my head.
and if you could get it down to 0.1%,
We'd be happy.
That's close enough. Well, our overall budget is what? 30,
What are you looking at?
30, is it 36 million now?
right in that area. And let's just take 70% is typically your cost.
Here's- you got
he's
it.
got his calculator.
So I look at the bottom of the IFS budget and it says $51 million.
Is it 51?
1.7.
Well, that'd be the thirds. I'm just rough number.
That may include all those non-lovey,
Okay, yeah, that's everything.
which could be.
All 1,793 accounts.
So, okay, if you take 70% of 51 million at 7%, we're looking at 2.5 million.
That's pay raise.
That's the raise, the increase.
But that's That's everything.
That's
High.
yeah.
Yeah,
That's really, really high. I'm gonna say it's probably 1. I'm trying to think back last year's. But it's a lot of numbers. I like numbers, but not that much.
1.7.
And it will play, different things will factor into that also. So last year, our salaried budgets, our budgeted salaries, you're thinking you're gonna 7% increase on that, but not necessarily, because in those budgeted salaries, you have people who retired, you had people who left, you have changeovers, you have positions that maybe weren't replaced. So some of that will figure into that also.
I'm just trying to figure out the absolute minimum. It ain't good.
No,
It's gonna be a tough year.
we said that last year.
And the year before.
Yep. Raise it a little higher, so you don't have such a big increase the following years.
And then to what extent do we dip into our
And
piggy
always
bank?
lower it.
Yeah, and that will play into it too. And then, by the time we're looking at budgets, we'll have a better idea of what this year will be further into this year to know how much of that planned use of cash balance we are actually using. There have been years that we've planned to use cash balance and we haven't. I don't know if it'd be really cool if it was that case this year, but I'm not thinking that it will be.
So in those years then, did we reserve that
No, we did
for
not.
a rainy day?
Portions of
By
it.
definition, yes.
Right, it is in the fund balance or the cash balance.
Kathleen, anything else that you want to cover or you want some feedback on?
I can't think of anything now. The biggest decision makers are going to be the appropriations. I think I mentioned at the board meeting, it is nice to kind of have an idea of and set that appropriation budget early, because it helps with portions of the budget as we go forward and we set that levy. So I think that's kind of just, so if you guys want to think about that, that would be something that I'd be looking for as we go forward with the budget. And I guess just letting me know if there's anything particular that you want to see as far as budget reports or information as we're reviewing the budget and you are setting the levy, what you want to see.
As far as appropriations, I'm just throwing this out to commissioners. Kind of looks like we may be in for a hard freeze.
Yep.
Which is not unusual. I think that's more often than not been the case where, plan on getting what you're getting, but no more. It's a long road without a turn here, but
Contact me anytime.
Okay.
I can research answers.
just looking at something else here, and it's not going to affect the 2027, but EMS, the speculation of EMS taxation districts would 2028, if in fact that would occur, and there's a big if in there, that probably would not happen until 2028, right?
Correct. The administrator is doing a lot of foot dragging on this because he just does not know how to make it work.
Yeah.
And there was a story, I hadn't even thought of this, but there was a story in, I think it was, I don't remember where I saw it, Star Tribune maybe, last week, on the whole concept of ambulances being out of network for insurance and people being hit with insurance bills when they call an ambulance and having zero ability to choose an ambulance, right? Because the state assigns a license to primary service area. And so I'm like, well, geez, if we levy a tax for ambulance service, we better make sure that we're accounting for that, because I would feel really bad as a taxpayer to be paying a tax for ambulance service and then get hit with a $8,000 bill because my insurance said it was out of network.
Mhm.
So every time I dust off that ambulance file, I just get scared.
And there's a brand new twist now too, close to home. North Memorial is going to be merging with
Sanford.
Sanford.
Oh. When did that come about?
Very recently.
They've been trying to get into the Twin Cities. Sanford has been trying to get into the Twin Cities Metro for years.
That's interesting.
And in talking with North, Kevin, it's not going to have any tangible change to us.
Yes.
But economically down the road, it very well could.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Kevin Lee is planning to be at the next board meeting asking for a letter of support.
Yeah, that's right.
I can't remember what it's for.
Well, we did this before. They're ALS certified, advanced life support. That's what they're licensed for. And the state was, you're either ALS and you're 24/7, 365 staffed ALS, or you're not. Well, that's not realistic because paramedics are not that readily available. So you staff with EMTs. And that is what the letter of support is, that they maintain their ALS status, even though they can't guarantee 24/7, 365 ALS coverage. There will be times when we're basic BLS staffed with EMTs.
And that's for their Grand Rapids operation.
That goes into Aitkin County
And because I think their Aitkin-based operation already is part-time.
and McGregor.
Yeah, a lot of times we'll bring
He's gonna be here, so if there are any questions on the merger, we can pepper him.
Yeah. And I don't know that he even has.
No, but
But I wanted to bring that up because it's gonna come to surface. And ALS, BLS, Dan, you know this. What percent of the calls, the vast majority of calls in Aitkin County can be handled by EMTs? By BLS?
If you combine the helicopter services with, I would say, yeah, that's a correct statement.
Yeah.
It's a money thing, right? The BLS license costs them less people to keep employees here. They bill based on the rate that they can have. So if you fall down in your house and you have a heart condition, they bill you for a cardiac response, not a fall down lift assist. If you fall down with a lift assist and they send a paramedic to your house and all they need is a lift assist, they bill it as a lift assist. So it's all about the billing part, that they want to be able to bill for the most. They're not going to want to run BLS because, I mean, they do that with the license because it looks good, but they want paramedics here because if they have a call that requires a paramedic, then they can charge higher rates. That's why they're coming up with these chase cars that you see running around now, these little, it's a paramedic and a Explorer or something responding at the same time the ambulance does with the two BLS.
And given the current situation, there's not a whole lot an EMT can't do that a paramedic can. The administration of medications is probably the big difference. They can all intubate, they can defibrillate. So in terms of the service provided to the person in need of ambulance care, there's not a big difference, but like the sheriff said, it's a financial thing on their end.
It does have an impact though, because if a BLS crew goes or an ALS crew goes to a call, let's say it's a cardiac case and they're doing CPR on a guy and the guy's on the floor dead, I can call that guy dead. I can say he's done, whatever. They won't leave that guy. They'll do CPR on that guy until they get a paramedic on scene. And sometimes it's 45 minutes.
Brutal.
Or a deputy coroner.
Right, but they don't listen to us so much. We can make that.
They should be listening to
So
you.
if there's another call going and they got their crew on this call right here, now they call a crew from, who knows,
Exactly.
Grand Rapids, Pine Center, Crosby,
Right.
Deer River, or somewhere else, who's ever available, they come. So it does have an impact a little bit, to have that better staff too.
But a situation of a 1072 or a DOA, I mean, there's not much hope. But in terms of the actual hard active, I don't, commissioners, anything else that you think we're gonna have to deal with or foresee by the end of this budget and levy season? Mike,
No,
Brett? Lori, Dave?
No,
Oh, thank you. I appreciate your feedback.
There's nothing else. Thanks.
Thank you.
Good job, Kathleen,
thank you,
David, everybody.
everybody.
I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Motion on the floor to set effect by Commissioner Westerland, supported Commissioner Carney. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposition, same sign. Motion's carried. Meeting's adjourned. Thanks again to everybody.
Thank you. Thank you.
Cammy, we gonna be set up here?